Word Spoken podcast.
We scatter into the school hall. Preteens. Fizzing. Underarms sticky from the forced football lesson inflicted on me. But here, my eyes are transfixed on the curved moon of chair to drum. Two tall men, thick with pigment, greet us, seat us down. They lift a curved root to the palm of their stretched, skinned drums, adinkra cymbals etched deep into the wood. The sound, taut, bassy from all the tight stringing, and then they sing to us. Ba, 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 she, ba, ba, oh. Oh, she, ba, 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 she, ba, ba, oh. Oh, she, ba, ba, 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 she, ba, ba, oh. We sing it back. And as I belt, crickets on phone calls with cousins, broken mother tongue to grandma, hazy memories of orange dirt roads, patch up, heal. They tell us they are from Ghana. My sore palms red from all the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, biddy bum, bum, biddy bum, bum, bum. Worth every blister now. I wear my name like the weight that it is. Abena. They call me their sister. My grin so wide it greets mama when the bell rings, so I relay the melody. My smile pops. No, Abena. Wenye ya casa. Not our tribe, mama says. This is Ga. And in that moment, my tongue knows how weak it is. How much they are yet to learn about this place they call half a home, yet how she will still curl herself towards any hint of it. Because this is what we do. Hang our teeth on vague recollections of grandma smashing fufu in the courtyard. Chew on it. Live off the buzz of dad's and Nance's stories in the kitchen. Cling onto mama's cooking. Cling onto random men smashing African drums to spark up wavering pride in us. Cling onto Ghanaian birthday songs. Fold our skin into wells that keep the black in us alive.
Hey.
Hello.
And we are rolling. So there we go. That was Abena Bediako with a lovely piece called Shallow Tongue. Thank you so much for coming on to Word Spoken and performing that wonderful piece for us to kind of kick things off. How are you doing? How's things?
I'm good. Yeah, things are good. Things are really good at the moment.
we had to kind of rearrange this a couple of times, which is fine. But we sort of eventually got there.
We eventually got there.
But honestly, it's a pleasure to have you down and to have you on. So thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you for having me.
I really, really loved that first piece.
Thank you.
Your voice on it is lovely. Like, you sing very, very well. So let's kind of, just for kind of people listening, let's kind of bring this right back to when you first started getting into spoken word. So what was your journey into this art form?
So I've always really loved creativity in general. And I always kind of sang and wrote poems like on my phone. But it wasn't until university when I was in my second year of university in 2018 that I got involved in UniSlam. And so I ended up being in a team of 4 poets, and we went to UniSlam, and it was actually in Leicester that year. Just a team of 4 poets, and we just started performing from there. So I did my first poem, My Black Cloud, and I also did another poem that I can't remember the name of at the moment. And then I just fell in love with it, and it was just such a beautiful environment to go into, because I think the spoken word, especially at UniSlam, the community is what really makes it, and you just get to learn and create friendships with people when they perform their poetry, and you get to learn so much about their worlds and what they go through. And I just fell in love with it from there. And then after that, I kind of just like entered lots of different spoken word competitions in Leicester while I was at university there. So some antics. And then I won the championship slam in some antics.
Just saying.
Find the right words in Leicester, run by Jess Green. All these different things I just kept doing. And then I entered the Roundhouse Poetry Slam finals.
Yes.
Got to the finals, which was really cool. From there, it just kind of opened up. I, was doing different projects in Leicester and in London. And I got into the Roundhouse Poetry Collective. And then BBC Words First recently. So it's just been it's been a really lovely journey. It took a while, I think. When I first started, I didn't really know what my style was, but I've been growing, and I'm finally at a place where I'm starting to enjoy writing fully and enjoy like my work.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, I mean, that is, it's so much has happened in such a short space of time. So when you did that UniSlam, that's back in 2018, right? So we're talking 2 years.
Yeah.
And in all that time, you've come a really long way. And as you said, your most recent thing is you're part of the BBC Words First program, which is amazing. So well done. But so I really want to speak about that in a little bit. But first of all, I want to ask, how long had you been writing prior to getting into spoken word? So prior to that UniSlam, how long had you been writing, and did you have pieces for?
I don't know that it was ever the spoken word pieces I had. It was kind of just I remember I'd be sitting by my windowsill late at night. I wouldn't be sleeping or something. And then I'd just be kind of jotting some stuff down. Some of them were really imaginary poems, kind of talking in a voice of someone I imagined. But I always loved poetry in school. My English teacher was amazing in secondary school. And so there was definitely that connection to literature and reading, whether it was novels or poems or music. I've always loved art in that way. So I think in the beginning, poetry specifically was more of a hobby and way to get out things that I wanted to say or just wanted to explore and just calm myself down. It was more music that I was writing songs for, and I wrote songs throughout all of my teenage years. But yeah, poetry was more uni.
So what do you think it was that kind of led you to kind of turn those pieces which you had in your phone, which you kind of, as you said, didn't really think they were spoken word pieces, or what was it that kind of led you to be actually, do you know what, I'm gonna enter this thing? What was that process?
So it was actually a specific process. The person who really inspired me to feel like I could do this was Sarah Kay. She is the poet that I found my voice in, and I still love her poems to this day. But I think it was actually a very specific way I got into UniSlam. I had actually started creating my own society at university.
Oh, yeah.
It was called Creative Space, which hopefully one day I will bring to life. But it didn't end up working out. But at the Freshers' Fair, I ran into Francis, who was in the UniSlam team with me in my first year, in my first year, and in my second year of UniSlam. And he's actually in the BBC Words First Final 12 with
as
me.
well. There you go.
I found out on the Tuesday. But yeah, so he was actually the person who was in the creative writing team, and he was we're doing this thing called UniSlam, and I was oh my God, that sounds really cool. And then I joined the team. From there, and I thought about, because I said, I've always wanted to get into spoken word. I've always wanted to do poems. And I thought, I've got a few things on my phone, but they're not really spoken word pieces. And I was just like, yeah, well, we can adapt that. We can, when we get there, we'll get there. And so that's literally the story of how it started. It was at Freshers Fair, and I was like, yeah, let's go for this.
It's quite an interesting thing, because lots of people actually do get into spoken words at a little bit of a later stage in life. Like at uni is kind of pretty common around that kind of age. Why do you think it wasn't something that you had access to or got involved with when you were writing those songs, for example, as a teenager in those first few years?
I think, again, I've always kind of liked poetry, but I can see why. Like at school, the poems are very, dated from way back when. And so it didn't really feel as contemporary as now. Like spoken word, I remember seeing one of my first spoken word videos when I was in, I think year 8 or something, doing religious education. And it just felt so distant. It felt like, it had a style to it. It was kind of like almost like the guy was almost rapping in a way. Like he had that kind of like rhythm to his poem. And I just felt like it was just so distant. It was like, this is spoken word. This is poetry in school. There was no like cohesive link between any of it.
Yeah.
So I never really kind of like linked the two of like, this can be something I can explore and this could be an art form. It was just like, these like, Renaissance writers from back in the day who are, something we study in an anthology, and like it was like so prestigious and nothing that it didn't really feel accessible, I guess.
It is a real shame, and I think it's what so many people say, and it's really, really common. People's perception of poetry when they're kind of at school in those teenage years is this very distant, unrelatable art form that's like outdated and has got nothing to reflect the way that you live in the world in which you live in, right? It's written in other times by people you can't relate to in any way. It's a real shame though, isn't it? Because actually there is a wealth of people out there, a wealth of poets, like a wealth of content, which loads of kids would really resonate with, and it would get them thinking, it would get them writing, maybe even stepping into performing as well. You don't have to get them on a stage to kind of get involved with this too. Think it's a real shame, but you're right. It's something that's kind of really common.
For sure.
But what was it like then? So when you had kind of done this uni slam, right? So what was your kind of residing feeling having done it for the first time?
I was terrified. Oh my God, I was terrified. But I remember when they all gave us a number in the team. And I remember as they were about to call my number, it was like time for me to go up. I was like to myself, Abena, you're going up there to tell your story. Remember why you wrote it. You can do this. And I just channeled all of that, all of this excitement, all of this like weeks worth of practice that I'd, built up. And then I went up and I just gave it everything. I recently looked back at my clip.
What was that like?
Oh my God, I'm a completely different performer, I feel. I still had the same energy, but it was very much like words were very overemphasized. I feel like I didn't know my sound yet. It was very much based on like different ways that I thought I could perform my poetry. And there's no set way to perform poetry. You can perform it any way. You can overemphasize words. You can do it. But it's just so distant to how I was. And I hadn't really grown into my voice. So it was kind of like, it was a beautiful feeling to watch it back, but it was also weird to see it. I was like, this is interesting. This is so different. But I when I did go up, I could tell I was really into it. And I was really into it. And it meant everything. I just gave it my all. And the response was really cool as well. And people really resonated to it. And I respect everything that it was. And it was such a rush. It was a rush. I loved every second. And I was like, I simply must do this again.
And it's great because you did. And then it's kind of led you to do loads of different things. And now like spoken word is a really big part of your life, right? So I think it's really, really cool. I think that's kind of a little nudge to anyone that is listening that maybe has a couple of poems on their phone or, thinks they kind of want to get into this. In just 2 years, right, you're going to be on BBC Radio 1, essentially, right? So that's the short space of time. But when you kind of find that confidence and you find the stage and then suddenly you're like, okay, boom, I found my thing. And I think it's really cool with you. So yeah, I'm really pleased that whole kind of process has like happened for you, and it's wicked. So yeah. So look, I want to hear about your second piece that you're going to perform for us on the show. So the piece is entitled "No One Ever Talks About Friendship Love." What's the context for this one?
So this one is about my best friend, Ayana Kioni Lisa Orr. Hi. She means everything to me. I met her at university, and I kind of went into university not really having any sense of like real proper friendships. I'd had quite a tricky time in secondary school. It wasn't the best experience for me. There was, cases of like really awful things and arguably bullying as well. And so I just kind of, went in, and also mental health and stuff. I just didn't know myself, and I was learning to. I didn't have any concept of what it meant to have a healthy friendship. And I met her in such a specific way in mental health society.
Okay.
And yeah, I just tapped her because I recognized her hair, which you'll probably hear about in lectures. And then just from there, the rest was history.
Yeah.
And so it's just about that journey and how much I love her, basically.
Well, that is beautiful. Like, I've always thought, I've tried to imagine I've never had a poem written about me, I'm waiting, but she's obviously heard this.
Yeah.
So what did she, like, how did she respond the first time she heard it? Like, what must that feel like?
So I'm actually really extra when it comes to, because I think she just means a lot to me, and I'm a poet, and when I love hard. And so it wasn't the first time I'd written a poem before. Okay. It was I like back in Leicester, there was this night called Find the Right Words, and I wrote a poem for our friendiversary. It was like a year or so that we'd met, and I was like, yeah, we're celebrating this day. And she was sat in the crowd. We wore matching jumpers by accident. And I just, I performed for her in the crowd, and like the whole crowd was there, and I was like, it's about this fabulous person here. So oh, God. Oh.
That's fine, that way.
So yeah.
It's minor mic tech thing there. So look, I'm so excited for everyone to hear this piece. I think it's a really wonderful piece. So let's hear this. This is Abena Bediako with No One Ever Talks About Friendship Love.
Love at first sight. I tapped you. Your wine curls, thick frames, red and black, leather bomber jacket all turned around to beam at me. I told you I recognized your hair from psychology lectures. Grinning, you told the story of how your hair was a siren that lured eager freshers that were dying to make new friends. My mind was heavy hell that day. You didn't see it that way. Keyed my number into your phone, your immediate text already interrupting any doubts that it wouldn't last. Are we official? It took me months to fully trust you. But somewhere in between my cries on your bathroom floor, you tilting my chin up to tell me the sun and I were on the same level, somewhere in between our post-seminar chats. Faces glowing amber, red, moss green under the stretch of a traffic light. Our warm breath turning mist in the cold. Somewhere in between our streams of voice notes, you helped me to unlearn the songs abandonment had taught me to sing. That night, you introduced me to the new bay. You said, this is my best friend, Abena, in the sticky nightclub queue, and I geeked out, even through the blur of alcohol. In the morning, when I sobered, I told everyone. Honeymoon phase. I hear your squeals in the bean stew I have for dinner. The plantain tastes extra good now. When it's icy, my headphones warm my ears. I know you miss the sun. I don't skip Daniel Caesar some days so I can bring you with me as I walk home. There are so many memories I refuse to forget. like screaming, dripping in finesse, half drunk, all the way to the cash machines just so you could help me block out things I would rather forget. First fight. Pedestals are burning. We are finally human. No longer gods, just humans who still care viciously for one another. The day we rubbed each other the wrong way, I had no idea where to put all of my anger. So used to turning to us to fit all my pieces into all the right places. Meeting the family. Your Sri Lanka leaving trip, surprise party, midday. I was late. You still squealed upon my arrival. I sat stiff-postured, fiddling the fork on the table in a sea of unfamiliar faces. We all love you. I blink twice. Your friends, your family, they seem to like me. I've barely said a word. We sneak away. Toilet break. Code for we haven't had a moment to really talk yet. I don't spill food all over myself. The day is successful. Did I mention that me and your mother voice note now from time to time? I think that means I've made it. Marry me? You hold space for every inch of my spectrum. Remind me it is okay to be scared, but do it anyway. I manifest your bright future like it is already present. Although there is no altar, no official place to read my vows, I will still make it Insta-official. Still blast friendiversary on my Snapchat story every year. The day you took my number. God, the universe, or whatever you want to call it, knew exactly what they were doing.
So there we go. That was Abena Bediako with No One Ever Talks About Friendship Love. What a wonderful piece that was. Again, thank you so much for sharing that with us. That was that was really, really lovely.
Thank you.
So what I want to chat about now, we have obviously briefly mentioned it already, but I just kind of for the listeners really, this did come up last week with Joe, and he wasn't aware of what BBC Words First is. So you're in the final 12 of this competition. But could you first of all tell us kind of what is BBC Words First and how has the process kind of played out up until this point?
Okay, so BBC Words First. Oh, right. So it was basically we had to send in a video as an audition and then we were selected. So there was quite a few groups. I think there were like 6 groups in total. And yeah, I got through into the one of them. Mine were on Mondays. I completely forgot the question. Do you mind reminding the question for me?
No,
Sorry.
right. BBC Words First.
Okay, so how did it play out?
Yeah, so what was the kind of first steps of the process like, and where's it kind of leading to? Right? Have you already been on BBC Radio 1? Has that happened yet?
Okay, so no. So we've had our workshops first. So we, my mentors were Deanna Rogers and Adam Cameling and Owen Griffiths.
Didn't say that with too much confidence.
No, because I know him by John Berkovich, a poetry name. Yeah, so they were basically like, he was hosting the session and those were my mentors. So we've had our workshops, we've had our like masterclasses with them. And then through that course, we had to like basically write a new piece of writing, which was going to be submitted. And then from there would be a final 12 that were selected.
Cool.
So a lot of the things we were taught was, you know, write with intention and learning about metaphor, which is really something I wanted to like master in this next stage of my writing. And yeah, we just had to like learn different things, learning how to perform because it had to all be digital, the way we recorded it because of COVID-19. And then, yeah, we had to film it, you know, send it through. We had a watch party in our group. It was just such a beautiful, beautiful environment. It felt like home. I hadn't written in a while and it was just the boost that I needed.
So you're now in the final 12, and there's ultimately going to be a slam, right, of those final 12.
Yes.
So when and where is that taking place?
That is happening on the 26th of September in Carlisle.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Will all 12 of the performances be played out at some point, or will it be?
Think so. I think so. I think it's going to be either broadcasted, or some people might do it remotely depending on their situation.
That is amazing. Honestly, like, congrats.
Thank you.
Because obviously, you know, you're already part of the Roundhouse collective, which is very impressive. But to make it on to this BBC Words First thing, I mean, there will be thousands of people applying for that. Literally thousands. So to get down to the final 12 must feel really amazing. Like, what does that feel like? Is it like, when you found out you made it to the last 12, what was going through your head?
I was screaming, literally screaming. Yeah. I think I've had a lot of doubt with my writing. I've always had a love-hate relationship with it, and kind of there's been so many points where I'm like, I just don't think that this is going to work. Maybe I should just give up, and I don't know if it's, you know, translating. I've always had that, and so I've, you know, to keep pushing, you know, to build like a creative community. Sometimes I will be like, no, apply, or like friends and stuff, and then keep going for things. It just finally feels like the hard work is paying off, all of the tears, all of the worries, everything, and just keep on biting and stuff like that. Like, it just feels like it's paying off. And I'm just excited, and I'm starting to like my work. Like, I'm actually at that place. And so I'm really excited to grow as a writer.
Wicked. Well, look, I cannot wait to kind of see where that goes for you. I genuinely wish you the best in that as well. Like, it will be really great. So look, I think now is actually come the time where we're going to put your love-hate relationship with writing to the test. So what we're going to jump into in just a few seconds is, of course, the 155 challenge. Now, I hope you're ready for this. I think you're going to like it. 155. 155. 155 is the part of the show where we challenge our guests to a quick fire free write. The rules are as follows. You must pick one word out of that box right in front of you and use it as a prompt to write a piece. You have got 1 minute 55 to complete this task, after which you solemnly swear to read it out loud. Do you solemnly swear to read it out loud? I
solemnly swear.
Do you?
Yes.
Are you ready for this?
I am.
Okay, cool. So the first thing that we need to do is pick out a word. So if you want to give it a little shake, make sure it's completely random. Let's see what word is coming out for Abena. I can see you're kind of nervous. Oh no! What is the word?
Nostril. Oh my god.
The word is... Right, now I put some random words in there, and that's one of them. So the word, ladies and gentlemen, is nostril. Now you can... That was probably one of the weirder ones, to be honest. So that's just your luck. So, okay, what I'm going to do is give you a countdown in just a little bit, right? But before we do that, I want everyone listening at home to know that you can take part in this as well. Enter your pieces. Basically, we're going to have the countdown of 1 minute 55. You've got to be honest, but if you send me in whatever you guys come up with, then one of you listening will win yourself your very own word spoken mug. I mean, what's not to like about that? So, I think make sure you got your pen and your pencils ready, or your phone, whatever you're using. We're just going to get up to the countdown in a little sec. Now, are you ready, Abena?
I think
Nostril,
so.
Okay? Okay, ready? Your time starts now.
155.
Okay, we've got 155 on the clock. Abena is writing away a piece with the prompt of the word nostril. I do apologise. I don't know where that word came from, but I'm going to tell you a little fact about nostrils, as I often do. The most painful place on the human body to be stung by a bee is the nostril. So that's a fact. And also, a polo mint takes 42.5 minutes to dissolve if you stick it up your nose. So there's two ridiculous and very pointless facts for you about nostrils. So look, we're coming up to nearly halfway with this 155 challenge. I'd say we're about a third of the way through. Now, I've done this a couple of times, people, and it's not easy, okay? So basically, whatever comes out at the end, we're going to give Abena a little bit of time to collect whatever she's written, and then I look forward to her reading it out. It's getting a little bit closer. Just a reminder, guys, if you want to win a Word Spoken mug, then send in whatever you come up with in this time. I can't wait to see whatever kind of comes out in this short space of time. We've got about 30 seconds left. It's getting very, very... We're doing a lot of writing. Now, I think Abena's going to be actually surprisingly very good at this.
No.
You got this.
I'm so bad at it.
You got this. We're coming up to probably about 20 seconds left. It's building. The tension's hitting. Nostrils, people. Noses. Nostrils. Okay, we're coming up to the 10-second countdown.
8, 7, 6.
This is terrible.
This is intense.
0.
Put down your pens, ladies and gentlemen, and Abena. Okay, so I literally apologise. Do you know what? When I was trying to come up with the words, I was like, I'll just chuck in some weird ones, and that's one of them. So anyway, look, let's hear Abena's. I'll give you a little time, maybe just kind of read through it and see what you're up with. Yeah, you ready?
Okay.
Okay, cool. So let's hear Abena's entry for the 155 challenge with the word nostril.
Okay. I flare my nostril, grit my teeth, wash the grease of the day away. COVID means I'm extra scared of dirt, so I scour my fear away. The water wakes my skin, replenishing.
Yes! Well done!
I don't know.
That was really nice.
Yeah.
That was really nice. Well done.
Thank you.
Was that stressful? I feel like
I was just like, oh no, what do I write?
I feel like that was really stressful. Like I could sense. Do you know what? That was lovely.
Yeah.
That was actually really good.
Okay, cool.
I feel like with those kind of things is like you don't know where anyone is going to take them, and like I didn't expect it to be so like heartwarming and lovely. I thought nostril was gonna like, but that was great. Well
Thank
done.
you.
So yeah. Reminder, people listening at home, send in whatever you came up with in that time, and you can win yourself a Word Spoken mug. Isn't that fun?
Fun.
Which we're drinking our green teas out of, which is marvellous. Yours is
it's
probably
very-
cold by now. We did that about an hour ago.
Yeah.
A cold green tea. You can have a cold green tea out of your mug if that's something you're down with. So look, thank you for playing the 155 challenge. That was really good fun. So let's kind of have a little conversation now. You kind of mentioned in that piece, obviously, the disaster that has been COVID-19. How have you found, whilst being locked down, did you find it an easy time to write?
No, not
Really?
at all. It was only towards the end of lockdown. Again, I kind of was going through a bit of a rough patch with my writing before BBC Words First.
Yeah.
I kind of was like, I don't know if this is the right path. I have a lot. And Black Lives Matter had just blown up, and trauma was everywhere. So it was a lot to hold, and then I already had like mental health that I was dealing with, and that was really exasperated by everything that was going on. And so I wasn't writing at all. I think I was just finding it as a really tricky time to create. It was a hard time. It was a hard time to be a person existing in that time, and to navigate how I was supposed to feel. There's no way to feel. But I guess that's something that helped me as well, is that I wasn't alone in that. Like, I knew that there were other Black folk who were feeling the same thing, that I could talk to about it. But yeah, it wasn't easy.
Yeah, I mean, it was a genuinely like, it still kind of is going on, isn't it, really? But it's a genuinely shocking couple of months, wasn't it? And definitely even more so when everything kind of flared up with the Black Lives Matter movement. So I'm pretty sure from your Instagram, I saw you actually, you went to one of these marches, right? So what was the kind of experience like for you?
I ended up I went by myself, and I think my family were quite worried about me because, you know, going to a protest by yourself is arguably a dangerous thing. But there was something within me that was like, I need to be there. I just need to be there. It was, I think, Pride weekend. That weekend, yeah, it was Pride weekend, and this was the Black Trans Lives Matter movement. I didn't actually get to that one until actually I had finished, because I went and I joined not the wrong protest. Every protest is just as, you know, important to be walking in. But that was the intention, to go to the Black Trans Lives Matter one. I went to the Shukri Abdi one, and then I went by myself and I made a friend whilst marching, and I was and then we kind of walked through it, and it was just a really emotional but powerful atmosphere where, you know, I could just see so many people like me, and we were fighting. We've always been fighting, but it brought me a sense of peace as well. Seeing different races coming together in that way. And then I went to the Black Trans Lives Matter one, and even though it was coming to an end, it was actually a really magical time in a way, even though there was a lot of pain. I ended up seeing people that I knew, a person from the collective, and meeting other queer Black folk. And I think in this time, you know, not necessarily having nights or like poetry nights or like, you know, Black queer meetups, it was just a really nourishing thing to go and be part of, and just have conversations with everyone and ask them how they were feeling and talk about our history, so much of our history that has been censored during this time, learning about so many different things, like the Maroons in Jamaica, who, you know, originated from Ghana, which is where my family is from, and just so many parts of my history, and talking about some things and just sharing experiences, whether, you know, bittersweet, happy or sad. And I went home feeling a lot more recharged and just grateful that I'd gone. It's never been an easy experience to be a Black person. But I think just in that time, it was really, really heavy, and it was just a lot to hold. But yeah, that protest gave me a lot of hope.
Yeah. No, I think one of the things which is perhaps, because obviously Black Lives Matter has been a movement for a number of years, right? But what does feel a bit different this time round is the kind of broad consensus, right? And the kind of the involvement of pretty much everyone, right? At these kind of marches and stuff. It was not necessarily just Black people, was it? It was a kind of real, it like felt like it was the nation behind this movement, you know, which I think in the past it hasn't always felt like that. Is that something which you would say is true, or
I don't know.
read that wrong?
I feel like it was encouraging to see allyship and, you know, people, you know, posting about it, and, you know, at protests as well, specifically, you know, showing up. But I think there's also the element of performative allyship that we don't know if everyone is genuinely for it. I also feel that it was definitely lovely to see allyship, but I don't believe that the entire country are behind it, in the sense of, you know, that like the Tories are definitely still doing so much to scrap and to you know, undermine working class people, Black folk all the time, you know, trans folk. And so I think there's a lot of work to be done. I feel like it was huge, and suddenly, you know, it was just trendy to be Black. Every Black person was everywhere.
Well, I think that is definitely one of the slight problems with something when it does blow up and kind of really does become part of the mainstream. You know, it was all over the news, wasn't it? All over social media and stuff. Is you do get a chunk that kind of potentially just tag along, I guess. But I mean, yeah, my overriding feeling from, obviously I'm not Black, so I don't have the experience of someone that has kind of suffered with the issues which the movement is kind of talking about. But I think for me, like, honestly, so I actually wasn't in England during this time, so I actually couldn't go to any of the marches. It was a real shame, but I just felt just as a visual, right? Just seeing all the photos that I saw and all of the kind of everyone's Instas and what was coming out in the news, I just felt, I don't know, like that's from an outsider's point of view. I just felt like, okay, cool. There feels like everyone's in on this, you know? Like I think there's only been a few like protests, you know, over the past few years or so, which have genuinely felt like, okay, this is the voice of most people. Like, I think it was a little bit like that with that Brexit march. There was like carnage, like a crazy amount of people out there. Like, I mean, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. So have you written a piece about the Black Lives Matter movement?
Yeah.
Kind of since everything's happened.
So in a way, my next piece is kind of touches on that slightly. And recently I took part in this thing with Creative Mind, and yeah, my poem was about like the mental health struggles and the Black Lives Matter movement and everything. So I definitely have been starting to write poems that kind of tackle that as well. Yeah, I guess as well, one thing to just mention is it was definitely hopeful, like with the whole Black Lives Matter movement. There was definitely, the protest gave me a lot of hope. But I think it's just that whole thing of like, it can't just be a moment, and this has been forever. And it's just like, okay, movement and people talking, but also action. Action is the most important thing. And that when this dies down and it's not a trend, like it's not trending, like it's still, people are actively doing things. That's what is going to bring that lasting hope.
I think one of the reasons, I'm just thinking out loud here, I think one of the reasons why it's actually quite common, which is very unfortunate. I hope this doesn't happen, right? But why things are so often now trends and like basically based on a hashtag, and they kind of come and go, and making real change is a much harder task than getting someone to share something. It's just because of social media. I just think we're so used to like a kind of quick snapshot, like bite-sized piece of information that kind of we just scroll past and click like, and we've kind of condensed our attention span to consume current affairs, I think, to a hashtag, to a trend, and it's really unfortunate, I think, because, well, it has its pros and cons, right? Because it has given us the ability to kind of really spread everything. So there was loads of stuff going around social media, wasn't there? Like, so that obviously helps get the message out there, and like anyone can post up a video and convey their experience, and so that does level things out and give exposure to things which otherwise might not get that. But the downside to it, I think, is it's actually a bit harder to really enforce genuine change, because people feel like they've done their bit by clicking and sharing and doing whatever. They go, cool, literally as if it's gone away. And I think it's a real shame, and I hope it doesn't happen with this movement. I don't know, I guess we'll have to see how things play out. But maybe I'm an optimist, right? I kind of just hope that this is the turning point. Yeah. So look, I think that does leave us quite nicely onto your third and final piece. So, I've got my little notes, what it's called. What's it called? The Queer Diaspora. So give us the kind of preamble to this piece.
So this piece the beginning of it was very centered in the now. And it was my piece for BBC Words First, the first part. And I didn't expect the beginning to have the weight that it did, but it felt right. It felt like that was the place. And then it kind of, like, despite having so much weight to it and, was being centered in a lot of pain, it also moved then to an element of hope. And it was basically a celebration of my chosen family, all the queer people of colour, kind of a representation of all the queer people of colour that I have in my life, and just how much, them being there has helped me to understand myself better and how we hold space for each other.
Well, look, I love this piece, by the way, just say. So I'm excited for everyone to hear it. So, okay, so let's hear this third and final piece. This is Abena Bediako with the Queer Diaspora.
Oil. Thick soup greets me from upstairs. Abena, mumbram bididi. Another black trans woman killed. Wash my blood-stained eyes, swap for Mama's words. Mama says crying won't shape tomorrow. You can cook. Good, you're a vessel, whoops, woman. Am I a woman? No time to question. Dad's home. We talk Black lives. How this country will never really see us. How diaspora should all flood home to Ghana, but Mama says, Mama says, gays are bad. Ugh, that woman turned man, all of this laced into, I love you. Learn to scratch out white noise. Find a you. You and here. Where I am your head, brimming with scarlet box braids. The first time I mumble queer through mouthfuls of Byron's burger, I am the gap between your grin. The moment you wrap your black skin round my back ever since. Here, I am our game of snap, But we both scream, I'm queer too. Run round the table with liquid and laughter exploding onto our coloured cheeks. We block out tree, Bengali, fathers who devour penal codes. They don't know what we know, that our people were fluid before the whitewash prayed the gay away. Here, I am our FaceTime calls, your bisexual Bob, skirting rooms, dodging footsteps so I can button up Dad's shirt as you toss my gender up into the ether, unearthing all my possibility. Here, I am your long-limbed shimmy towards me. Shocked to find another Negro in rainbow stripes, our fingers encased by the end of the night as we cha-cha slide with Allah and Jesus in nightclubs that fly our flags. This country that murders yet gives us all the love we long to receive.
So thank you very much for performing that. That was a poem called Queer Diaspora. I did say the before, didn't I?
Okay.
You did correct me when it was played. But generally, I think that's a really, really powerful piece.
Thank you.
So yeah, I honestly loved it. And honestly, a quick reminder for people listening or watching is that you can watch this. So if you kind of listen to that piece and you want to see it in action, you can see the visuals to it as well, head over to YouTube, because all of this episode, the entirety will be up there, and also each of the poems has their own little separate video. So go and check that out, because I think one of the other things I really like about your work is your performances. I just think you kind of really... you just have such a endearing like smile on your face when you say these pieces, and like a really kind of gentle tone, but you kind of deal with things which have depth, right? So I think that kind of contrast makes it kind of really rich.
Thank you.
So yeah, I like it a lot. So I want to have a little chat about something which is kind of linked to that as well. So you've very recently kind of cut your hair.
I have.
Pretty short.
I really have.
So and you did a couple of posts about it. So what was kind of cutting your hair and having very short hair? What kind of does that mean to you?
So I began my natural hair journey with having short hair. So I kind of always will link to that and like just have that first genesis of seeing my curls for the first time. But this time it held more weight because during lockdown, one of the things that came up for me was gender and questioning gender and what does that mean for me? And there's no way to, explore gender. There's no right way. But for me, cutting my hair was a base so that I could channel femininity and masculinity, in my own ways and just have the freedom to do that. I was just starting to question, like, where do I fit in the gender spectrum? So many different things. And now I'm kind of like more comfortable with using different pronouns. So she, they is where I'm at right now.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what my label is. Maybe non-binary. I'm not sure. I'm still figuring it out. But that day was it held a lot of weight. And my best friend as well, who I talk about in the poem, came all the way from South London to be there to help, like to cut my hair. She filmed the whole thing. So I get to look back on that. And I was just feeling I was fearful. I was like, this is so much, like my hair's coming off. But I just felt a lot of peace afterwards. And during, I was enjoying the process. I felt like my spirit was just resting. So I just knew that it was the right decision. And from there, I've just been able to just like some days be like, I kind of look like a boy right now. And I love that. And I, feel different ways and hold space to be whatever I want to be in this world. And so it's a beginning. I still know that I've got a lot to learn and discover about myself and, the different terms and everything, so I can just understand myself better. But gender as well as sexuality is something that gender as well as something new, but it all comes together, and I'm very much queer and I'm loving it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's really, really great. And I think your kind of pieces, definitely that last one, do give us a good insight into that for you. And it's there's obviously a difference between, for anyone that isn't aware, there's a big difference between sexuality and gender, and I think particularly an older generation don't really get that, and I think it's a real shame. But having pieces like that, having art form created by queer people is exactly the way to kind of educate people and to kind of limit the amount of negative experiences queer people do experience. So I really love that piece in particular. One of the things that I remember we had this conversation, and it was back at a night called Poetclopedia. It was actually the night I met you, wasn't it? And we had this kind of conversation where I think I came to you with a question, help me. But people that are people that are bisexual, and often in the queer community they're actually discriminated against a little bit. People kind of think, well, are you gay or straight? Make up your mind. Exactly. Or are you really bi? Which one do you like more? Or what's your understanding of that kind of where that comes from?
What's my understanding of where that comes from? I'm actually figuring out my label as that as well. Bisexual feels like a fit, but I feel like right now pansexual is also where I'm at. But very similar in the terms and everything. Where does it come from? I think...
That is quite a hard question.
Yeah.
I realised as I asked it, I was like, oh, that's probably quite tricky. You don't have to,
I feel like there's kind of, infighting in a way within different communities, if that makes sense. So, within... the Black communities, that's the whole issue of colorism. Within the LGBT community, I guess that's one of the issues, biphobia.
Yeah.
And so I think it all kind of, I don't know. I think it's a biphobia thing in terms of people that are heterosexual, but I also think it's that whole, I don't know, it's a weird
it is hard.
one.
No,
it's a tricky one.
Just as you were kind of saying that, I was just thinking, actually, why?
Yeah.
But it is a kind of odd one. I think as well, lots of people that are gay, when they first come out, they say they're bi as a kind of halfway step, and I was one of those people, and I was like, oh no, don't worry, I'm still with this, but and I think it's
maybe that's where it stems from.
Maybe it does kind of stem from that. I think there's it's I don't know.
I think that's the thing.
We're just exploring, aren't we?
Do you know what? I think that's something that I learned as well, that labels can shift and change throughout a person's lifetime. That's allowed to, because at the end of the day, you're always going to return to who you are. It's not that, oh yeah, I'm choosing this. It's that you're finding the language to encompass something that you've already been. And so I think in that sense, even though sometimes it can be that stepping stone for people, there's obviously, repercussions from that maybe in terms of biphobia, but in that essence it's not completely wrong to be okay, I'm figuring out and this feels like a better label for me. It's a tricky one.
I think that is kind of the thing with labels is they have pros and cons. If you find yourself getting tied to a label in a way you didn't intend, then okay, well, forget about the labels, right? But then if a label does give you the affirmation and the kind of confidence in yourself, then obviously it is a positive. So I guess for each kind of person it does kind of vary. But I think the thing, just from getting to know you, it was great having these kind of conversations with you, and that's one of the great things about this art form, right, is you meet so many different people and from so many different backgrounds, but there's things which you definitely have in common and can kind of chat to each other about and learn from each other. And you were definitely one of those people for me. So it's just great we've been able to do this.
It was so fun. It was just oh my god, we're all clear. It was great.
Okay, cool. So look, we've now got to the part of the show where we get a recommendation from our guest. So let's play Eyes and Ears.
Love it.
Eyes and ears. Go.
Okay, that's for you.
Yeah, anyway, there we go. So, the Eyes and Ears is the part of the show where we get a recommendation from our wonderful guests, something for us to take away, something for our eyes to feast on, and something for our ears to find blissful. I think that's the phrase I said last week. Anyway, so yeah, let's hear your eyes first.
So my eyes, I've actually got two.
Ooh. Well, to be fair, we all do have two eyes.
Yeah.
There you
One
go.
for each.
One for each.
One each. You have to close your eyes while you look at each one.
Like
No. So the first one, when I got into the BBC Words First, Final 12, woo. And when I was doing the masterclass with Malika Booker, she read this poem that we looked at, and it was called Alabanza in Praise of Local 100 by Martin Espada.
Okay.
It was a poem written after 9/11, and it was to dedicate to the immigrant workers who were working in the restaurant who had lost their lives. That, it was a honing in of the people that no one else was going to be paying as much attention to. People who maybe didn't have documents or whatever, like just the immigrant workers in that sense. And it was just giving so much life to like their work and being in that kitchen and cooking, and the way Martin brought those people to life. It was just beautiful. Everyone was feeling it. I was feeling it. I was like, oh my goodness, it was just so rich. And yeah, it just taught me a lot. So I think that's a really good thing to check out.
Amazing. That is the first eye.
Yes.
What is the second eye?
The second eye is also something that really, really helped me during lockdown, and was like, helped me to be like, oh my God, okay, gender, is this something that we are questioning it? I think it is. It was actually, it's on the Grindr YouTube channel, but hey, why not?
Hey.
And it's called How to Give Birth to Yourself. And there's this line, and I think it goes, as queer people, we have to give birth to ourselves. And it's just kind of like that whole idea of just like getting to know who you really are, and like you die once. Oh, there was this line. Oh, I just love the whole 5-minute clip. It's just, I don't know what it was. I screen recorded it and saved it onto my gallery because I was just like, I didn't even know where I was at the moment, but I just knew it spoke to me. And in the end, the person was like, they're a non-binary person, and so it just spoke to me in so many different ways. And he was like, once we give birth to ourselves, we are born twice. Once when our parents do, and then the second time when we return to who we are always meant to be. And it was just, there's so many lines in there, and I think
really
that's
resonated.
It was
Wait,
beautiful.
what was the name of that piece again? Can you say that again?
How to Give Birth to Yourself.
Okay, lovely, cool. So we urge people to go and look them up. Okay, brilliant. And then what have you got for our ears?
So I'm going to be very cliche Abena, not cliche, but very typical of what I would say, and say Chloe and Halle. I absolutely love Chloe and Halle. I've been listening to them since they, for a long time when they were performing covers on YouTube, and their music really helps me. And they're sisters, they produce all their music themselves, and they're just examples of like really strong, powerful Black female femme people, and I just really look up to them. They released a new album called The Ungodly Hour. Their old album is The Kids Are Alright. The whole album is beautiful. So I guess go have a listen. And their music videos for it is amazing as well. They just slay life. And I'm a big fan, if you can't tell.
Well, okay, brilliant. Well, look, those are 3 great recommendations. We urge people to go and have a little listen to them. Why not? That's what this is all about. So thank you very much for giving those to us. So look, we're now moving on to the final bit of this episode. So the last question that I pretty much always ask my guests is what are your plans for the future with your kind of spoken word and your art form? What are your goals? So obviously we've got BBC Words First coming pretty soon, but what's your kind of look to the future looking like?
I really want and believe that I can do it, but I want poetry and music to be my full-time career. Maybe modeling too, because I also model. Anyway, but yeah, mostly those 2. And I really want to create, I've been talking about this for quite some time, but I really want to create a full-length show about the different intersections of my identity. So, being queer, growing up from the Ghanaian diaspora and growing up Christian and all those intersections, and just create a cohesive piece, because I feel like I write about it a lot, but just create a creative piece that is just like set in stone that I can tour. I really want to do that. And to tour with music as well. So I just kind of want to keep getting better at my writing, get better at my craft, and just do it as a career. That would be a dream.
Right. Well, look, I wish you the best with that. I think, look, you've been doing this for 2 years. You've come on a very, very long way. And I've even got involved with BBC Radio 1 in that time. So I think that is a testament to what the next 2 years could be for you. So I really look forward to seeing stuff like that you've just mentioned. And I wish you the best with it. 3 wonderful pieces we heard from me. We heard Shallow Tongue, No One Ever Talks About Friendship, Love, and Queer Diaspora. Each brought us something different to kind of speak about, but they were all kind of sewn together with your delicate delivery and just like really, I like it. Great writing as well. So look, remind people where they can find you on Instagram.
So you can find me at Abena_E_B. So that's ABENA_E_B on Instagram and on Twitter, which I still never getting how to use.
Twitter is such a pain in the arse.
Yeah.
I don't know
what it is. I started like when I was younger, I tried and I just couldn't get it, and now I'm back and I still quite get it. I sound like a boomer. Whoops. Yeah.
No, I'm not a fan of Twitter at all. In fact, I wrote a very short little piece about it once. It was like, it was all about, well, it was actually the turn of the year. So naively thinking that it was going to be a good year, but I was like, things that we can do in this year to make it better than the previous ones. Wow, how misguided that was.
COVID
but
just
one of the
came
ones
and just was like, nah.
One of the things I said was turn off Twitter. Twitter is like farting in the wind, and this year we should be aiming for the shitter. Is that nice? Yeah. So on that lovely note, we're going to wrap up and say thank you very much for coming down and sharing your work. Best of luck with the BBC Words First. Guys, listen out for that, okay? Listen out for it. We're going to see you representing Word Spoken vibes. So yeah, thank you very much. Cheers, everyone. We will see you all later next week.